Hey everyone, it's Hugh Sweeney here, and today I've got a video all about the Moza Slypod, which is a compact monopod slider aimed at filmmakers and content creators like myself. Starting out, it's got a firm case, a semi-solid sort of case. I quite like it. It zips open like this, very compact, quite lightweight. You open it up and you've got this inside, okay? Okay, first up you've got this thing itself, the actual main body of the slider. It's got a good strong rubber handle and a screw point at the bottom here as well as a on and off multifunction switch and plus and minus buttons, which I will get to soon. It's got an Arca Swiss type fixing here up on top and 2 points as well, two different thread sizes, the large one, the standard one for mounting your tripod plate. So that's the main part. From the left we have this sort of slightly baseball handle, wooden type handle here, and the actual Slypod head here is a nice satin aluminium machined high quality piece of kit. I do like this. It's got nice fixings on it, nice threadings and stuff, and it does feel like good quality. And it's got a little dovetail plate here as well as square plate, which can be rotated in different directions. And overall this feels pretty good. I like this. And we have a handle as well at the bottom. This feels pretty decent. It's kind of rubberized and a little bit of plastic in there as well. Maybe not the best one I've ever had, but it's of decent quality. And then you have, finally, you have another different fixing as well for the head. That is the case. Okay, to turn it on, you just hold down the switch for a couple of seconds and on it comes. And then it's ready to go. And you have a button here, which will let you slide it in or out like so. And to reset it and switch it off, say if it's fully extended and you just want to turn it off, you tap the power button for 3 seconds, it slides in and it switches off, which is pretty cool. It's got a USB-C type connection for charging, and it's got an app as well, which is very easy to use, and you can upgrade the firmware very quickly with that app. I'll get to that very, very soon. It's got a nice multicolored ring at the bottom here. I do believe it's red when the battery's low and it's blue when the battery's charged. And you can change the color as well on it if that's your thing, like if you're a DJ or something. The battery seems to be pretty decent as well. I can't give you an exact figure of how many slides that I get, but I did set it to do about 35 slides and the battery only used about 4%. Of course, when it's got a heavier camera on there, it's going to use more battery. So it slides about 11 inches. That is not a huge distance. Bearing in mind how the device is designed and how you fix it onto a tripod and stuff, it's probably safer to keep it around that distance. You don't want it, sticking out 2 or 3 foot because you're going to run into problems there. In most shots that I've taken over the years with electronic sliders, the actual shot that you use is very often only about 11 or 12 inches. So it'll slide longer than you think, and it depends on the type shot you use as well. It'll hold 9 pounds on the horizontal slide and it'll hold 22 pounds vertically. I think all in all, it's really designed for DSLR type cameras, mirrorless cameras. It feels very safe on the tripod. You just know the way it's balanced that it's not going to go anywhere. So how does the Moza Slypod stack up against an electronic slider? I think just to set up the Moza Slypod and just get it into position and do some simple slides, I think it's easier than an electronic slider. If you want to do those forward slides with the standard electronic slider, it can actually be tricky to do without seeing the rails. So the beauty of the Moza is that it'll just slide in and out and you can just push the camera in towards something and not have those rails in the way. I was filming a scene up at a lighthouse recently. Now it took me a while to set it up with my existing slider. If I had this, it would have been pretty quick to do that same shot. So I think that it's ideal for those kind of push through shots, reveal shots where you're going through something and you don't want any interference from the device itself. You've just got the camera out at the front, unobstructed, and I think the Moza Slypod will be good for that. The Slypod might actually be better than standard electronic sliders for certain things such as macro, close-up slides and very fine slides where you're moving the slider in very small increments. I was just filming the Aperture light there a while ago, the Amran LMX light from Aperture. It's a very small LED and I wanted to get very delicate slides in between the buttons to show what each button does, and they're very, very small, and I was using a macro lens and I used the Slypod, and that would have been a bit of a pain in the ass with the Rhino slider. Obviously electronic sliders can be great for interviews, and particularly if you're using like an ARC device where you can turn the camera over and back. It's like a second cameraman and you can leave it. I don't think the Moza Slypod, especially the fact that it's a little bit louder, I don't think it's going to be as good for that. And of course you can't sort of turn the camera as well. It's just, the camera's just fixed. To get an angled slide like this with the normal electronic slider is a little bit tricky to do. You have to be careful in setting it up, particularly when you're using a tripod like this. You know, it tends to struggle a little bit with the belt mechanism, but with this guy, the very nature of how it's fabricated means that it just simply slides up like this. Easy to get those low angles as well. Depending on what tripod you use, you can actually drop it down, and you could get the Slypod to go right down to the ground, and that's something that's kind of tricky with other sliders, so I think it's very good for that stuff. Even like if you want to get some cool shots of a mechanic working on a car and you want to just ride the slider in over the engine and light them up cool, and you just get a close-up of a spanner or something on a nut, I think that the Slypod is going to be great for those things. So who is the Moza Slypod for? So I gotta say, that is me. That's people like myself, for the YouTuber, for the vlogger who likes to create really nice B-roll. You want to walk down a little forested laneway. You don't want to just a locked off tripod shot every time. You can mount the camera here, you can slide it up at an angle over some flowers and reveal yourself walking in the background. Now, a lot of us videographers and content creators end up shooting in the outdoors very often on our own. You've no one else around and you want to shoot yourself going to and from your destination, and so you usually end up just locking off a tripod shot, and that's why I love the Slypod. Just having it with me to just very quickly set up on a tripod and create a little bit of movement, a little bit of dynamics in a simple shot where I'm walking somewhere or whatever. It just adds so much to the shot, and it's very quick. So I think the Slypod is a great tool for the one-man band, for the YouTuber, the content creator, the person that's out shooting videos on their own who wants to just capture some cool content walking past the camera and stuff like that. So the Moza Slypod comes with an Android app that I've been using as well. It's quite a simple app. Very easy to use, very easy to connect to the slider, and it's very easy to upgrade the Slypod with the app. It just takes a couple of seconds and you can upgrade it every now and again. The app will let you do different slides. It'll let you do an accelerator slide. It'll let you do an easy in slide, which starts off slow and finishes slow. And it'll let you do standard slides as well. And one thing I like about the Slypod is it just knows when it's coming to the end on either side, and it just eases in that last centimeter or so, and it comes to a nice stop. There's no jerking or banging that you get with other sliders when they go offline. The app has some features aimed at time lapses, which is something that I don't often do, to be honest. I didn't explore that side of it, but it will let you control the camera as well and take photographs at regular increments. And if you're doing slow shutter speed photographs, it is important that the slider stops when it takes the photograph, and then it slides another little bit, then it stops again perfectly still for the photograph. That's very important, particularly for nighttime stuff. The buttons on the app are very small. You know, you've got all this mobile phone screen real estate, and then you're pressing this tiny little button. I think they should upgrade the app and just make those buttons big so that, you know, you're not having to concentrate on a tiny little button. Okay, so some of the build quality things that I found a slight issue with. First up, the plus and minus buttons down at the bottom. You've got this lovely big illuminated ring, and then you've got the plus and minus buttons are these black rubberized buttons, and they're actually very hard to see. It's hard to know which one is plus and minus, and you find yourself sometimes kind of looking for them when you're going to use the slider. They're also at the bottom as well, so if you're using that as a monopod, and you know it's down low or you want to do a slide on the ground, you have to put your hand right down at the bottom of the device, and you don't always want to be using an app to do each slide as well. You really want to make it as hands-on as possible. So I would have liked to have seen buttons higher up on the device, or maybe a second set of controls higher up here, because you're reaching down there all the time. A few other things that I'm not crazy about: the wooden handle at the bottom here. When you unscrew the wooden handle, the actual threading is left in the device itself, so that when you want to get rid of the wooden handle and just put the tripod little thing directly on the device, I don't think you can do that because the actual screw is stuck in the device itself, meaning that if you wanted to connect that to something, it could be difficult. Say if you wanted to connect a tripod plate to the bottom of the actual main handle, I don't think you can do that as of now. The Slypod is ever so slightly slow. It takes, I think, up to 15 seconds for it to slide those 11 inches, which is quite slow. It's not as fast as my electronic slider. If you were doing a lot of slow motion stuff where you're filming at very high frame rates, like 120 frames per second up to 180 frames per second, which a lot of these cameras can do, I think this slider is going to be way too subtle for that. With those super fast frame rates where you slow it right down 6 or 7 times, I think handheld stuff is going to look just as good as this because it's going to be just too slow. But for the actual main type of content, 60 frames per second, I think it's fine. I would like it to go a little bit faster though, to be perfectly honest. Also, it's a little bit loud. If you're doing close-up interview stuff, it's a little bit too loud for that. There is a silent mode, but the silent mode is only silent because it goes really slow. I had it switched on silent mode accidentally and I couldn't get it to move properly and I was driving myself nuts. I didn't realize what was going on. So to recap on the Slypod, it's beautifully built, it's a nice device. It is a filmmaking tool, but it's a specific tool for specific shots. And you know, if you buy one of these expecting to be going around with your camera on it all the time, then you're totally wrong. I see guys rocking up with gimbals and they film entire jobs with the gimbal. That is not the proper way to do filmmaking. You should choose the actual shot you want to get and choose the best tool for it. I find that when I use motorized sliders, I tend to use them for almost everything. And when I look back at my footage, everything is a slider shot. I keep saying to myself, right, I'm using it too much. Like that with the Slypod, I think you should choose it for specific shots. So do check it out. It's moderately priced at about $500, about 500-600 euros, I think, here in Europe. And that's pretty awesome. So check out the Slypod. And thank you for watching the video. Please do subscribe to my channel here if you like filmmaking, and hit the bell for notifications. Do check me out on the socials as well, Instagram and Facebook, I'm on there. And until next time, folks, from myself, Hugh Sweeney, it's over and out, and I will chat to you guys very, very soon.